Hey everybody, welcome to the War Within. I know I'm a little late to the pre-patch video party, but I've been experimenting with some talents and some build combinations that I haven't actually seen in some of the builds floating around. So as always, I'm going to be explaining very thoroughly, very detailed my choices and my decisions there. And if you believe me, if you agree with me, then feel free to try them out. And if you don't, then keep rocking the build you were rocking, because it sounds like it was working great for you. No reason to switch. That's how I always do things here. It's pretty clear that Frost DK is good, both in playstyle and performance. And not in the same way that we were talking about it the previous expansions, where it could be good if they keep going with this design philosophy and they milk blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not like that anymore. It just is good. If you talk to your favorite streamer, your favorite content creator, or you play it for yourself, honestly, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is totally different now. And that's because it is. They changed a lot of the core philosophy of the spec and made it good. So thank goodness for that, because I think we've been waiting for that for about 7 years. Maybe not exaggerated. So I will be effectively giving you guys this Frost DK pre-patch PvP guide as a way to give you the fundamentals and the underlying synergies and class mechanics. So when it inevitably changes and the new expansion drops with the hero talents and the level cap, you will have all that understanding to work with, so you could just dive into the right stuff in the new expansion. So that's the idea here, and also to start content creating again, because I will be back to full-time both as a streamer and a YouTuber in War Within. I just like the state of the game right now, and I like playing my class again, so that's why. No other reason besides that. I'll be back. So thank you guys, for whoever's here, for still watching. Okay, that's the intro. I don't think we need to do any more than that. Let's dive right into what you can clearly see, the first thing on this screen, and no surprise here, talents. I will still talk about gear and some thoughts on that at the end. And there will be timestamps below for everything, but talents are the first and foremost priority of the pre-patch. I'll bring up this little menu here. You can see I gave my build some dorky fantasy names. When I was making the original loadouts, I had something called like Frost Strike, Dual Wield, Sustained Focus, blah, 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 right? It was like terrible. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take the core philosophy of the spec and kind of like ideas and mechanics that it has and it promotes, and to make like a fantasy-esque name to fill the naming, the role that it's kind of trying to do there. So now, whenever you're in my YouTube comments or my stream, for example, you're asking me a question like, oh, do you still use the Endless Winter build? Or what did anything change with the Endless Winter build? Or you can be like, what build are you going to run for this comp? I can be like, hey, the Endless Winter build. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just a fun little thing. And I'm a dork, so there you go. If you hate it, I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to be doing it anyway. Anyway, Endless Winter build. Yes, it's very sustained focus. It's focused entirely around doing damage. And if you've been looking at the screen this entire time, you probably already see some things that are missing or some things that are added. And now you're really confused. So now I have to explain it to you. But we'll start at the top with first 5 are just locked in because they get you to the others. These 3 are also locked in for the entire expansion. Improved Rhyme, Improved Frost Strike, Unleashed Frenzy, because things like Runic Command, Frost Scythe, and Glacial Advance are just not very applicable in a PvP environment. The free Glacial Advance you get from Arctic Assault is very nice, but you would never run that on its own. And same for these other things. They're just not very PvP accessible. Same with Cold Heart. So as you go down this tree, you're probably like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that, because that's what absolutely everybody is going to run. These are just your core talents. You go down to Obliterate and Obliterate Damage. That's just good because you do a lot of Obliterate damage. And then you grab this Pillar package. Now the Pillar package was actually kind of variable in the prior expansion, but that is not the case anymore, because you can see this is rank 1 out of 1, 1 out of 1 instead of 2 out of 2, but it gives the same benefit. So you actually just get a free talent point. You only have to invest 1 for these effects, and that is just extremely good. It effectively doubles their value, so to speak, because you just only have to spend 1 talent point to get them. So that's extremely good, but here's a new one. Ice Cap, not new as in a new concept entirely, but now it is 15-second default all the time. But that's really impactful, because you have this other thing, Strangulate, spoiler, 45-second cooldown, 20-yard range, 5-second silence that DRs with almost nothing else in the game. So now that Frosty KO, that stun, silence, can happen every 45 seconds because they just match up perfectly. You don't even have to stay in to get it, though you will with this build, but there's even other builds that might still have like a hit and run playstyle that would still go on a 45-second go. You just kind of have to set it up a little differently because you won't have blind for it, and that's okay because then you can use blind as finishing CC. Think of like remorseless stun into silence, and then you swap to the DPS who's getting cleaved to death, and then you blind the healer and finish him off. That's a third DR that you have for this go. Instead of having to grip blind, stun, silence, you have this random blind out of nowhere that can just be an instant disruption for the healer and end the game. So wow. Very, very cool. But yes, Ice Cap. Oh, and another spoiler, Deathbringer's go is a 45-second cooldown. You know, the hero talents. So a 45 seconds is now something you're going to be hearing a lot for this expansion. Long gone are the days of the 1 minute. The new Supreme Ruler is 45 seconds, and Ice Cap makes that all possible. So pillar package, all this stuff, you've got it. Now down this way is the new stuff, so I'm going to go down the stuff that you've probably already got locked in because it's going to be more comfortable for you. The only difference is I have to go down Inexorable Assault rather than Murderous Efficiency. Even though Murderous Efficiency is extremely good, you can see, look at the arrows. In order to get to Smothering Offense, I have to grab this one because I'm not running Frostworms, which I will explain. But the idea right now is I can't just do this because now these are, right? So I have to grab Inexorable Assault, but Inexorable Assault is still pretty good. It adds nice chunky frost damage to every Obliterate in the beginning. When you pair that with the Glacial Advance, you're going to have like 4 numbers coming out at the same time, because I'm running dual wield, and that's a really, really good chunk of damage. It's kind of, again, is Ret-esque. This Frosty K rework is kind of feeling Ret rework-esque, where you have long duration cooldown with a short cooldown timer. So you stay in wings, you stay in pillar for a long time, and then you get out of it, but then you're getting ready for the next one pretty quickly. Very cool. Bone Grinder, Obliteration, and Arctic's Assault. This is effectively the most locked in thing in all of Frost. Huge frost damage bonus. Then every Obliterate is going to do frost damage that you press because you just alternate back and forth. You've been doing this for so long. Obliterate, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Frost Strike. You alternate back and forth and make every Obliterate do obscene damage. You cannot drop this, and since you've gone all the way, you might as well grab this. That's also absolutely excellent because it fires a free Glacial Advance, which is just damage, but then it also applies Razor Ice, which is extremely impactful no matter what build you're playing. Either you can set up Razor Ice very quickly for Shattering Strikes, which I do have a build with, which we'll get to, or you can just set up the Razor Ice very quickly on new targets, so you can have 18% damage buff on everything that you touch. Wow. Very good talent. Okay, so now you have things like Smothering Offense in this line. This line is totally different and totally unique to the new Frost, and it is very good. This is what I like to call a heavy synergy talent. At first, it looks pretty dumb, because if you look at your meters after a game, you're going to be like, oh, melee only does 6% of my damage. Like, that's just tiny. That doesn't matter. Well, first of all, we have insane mastery levels right now. And mastery does not increase your white damage. So when you go into the new expansion, your auto attack damage might go up even to like 9 or 10% of your total damage if you have good uptime. So that's one thing. But it also increases your auto attack speed because it increases your Icy Talon stacks, which is right over here. This is your attack speed buff that can now stack up to 5 times. That's 30% attack speed. And attack speed does the following things. One, it gives you more value out of your auto attack damage, which then in turn gives you more permafrost damage, which gives you more permafrost healing. But then it also gives you killing machine procs, because that's how auto attacks work. And it also gives you Icy Death Torrent, which is just even more raw damage. So you have all of these synergies. Maybe your white damage is not like 20% of your damage, but you have all of these little things that make it more impactful than it first is shown to you. So that's Smothering Offense and Icy Death Torrent. And then you have, oh, by the way, one more thing that needs your auto attacks to be fast to get as much use as possible, the Long Winter. If you can fit in just 3 auto attack crits in every pillar, that means you're going to have an 18-second pillar instead of 12. So if you have 18-second pillar on a 45-second cooldown, and then you have nearly full duration enduring strength during all that downtime, you can see what's coming. You finally have what I've been asking for 7 years, a Frost DK that can play the game more than once every minute, right? You can play the game constantly because your pillar lasts a long time, which does an enormous amount of pressure and runs them out of cooldowns. And then you get enduring strength for the entire rest of the duration. And fast autos mean more killing machines, which means more damage outside of pillar, because killing machine is what makes obliterate hit so hard. So you're still pressuring them. And then when they're like, oh, it's finally over, pillar comes back up because of ice cap. And that's how Frost should play. And Long Winter makes it all possible. By increasing the duration of pillar, you add more cooldowns that you can get out of the other team and more time to build up things like enduring strength and a shorter gap in between one pillar to the next. Pretty good. So that's all pretty common stuff, right? I mean, these talents are just excellent. Why would anybody not run them? There's maybe some talents that do things like this, but or builds rather. But personally, and I'm going to state this right now, I don't think I will change off the Long Winter the entire expansion. I see the value there. I've played with it. Feel free to experiment with other builds. I'm saying personally, this is a go-to for me. But there are other things that I did change. So you can see I'm not running Chill Streak, not running the Chill Streak modifier, not running Hyper Pyrexia with this build, not running Shattering Blade. I do have a build with it, stay tuned. But for this build, I drop this, drop this, drop this, drop this, drop Frostworm's Fury, drop Absolute Zero. That gives me 6 free talents. And I put them all into sustain. This is how this build actually works. So Gathering Storm, bigger remorse every go. Gathering or Cryogenic Chamber, bigger remorse every go. Icebreaker, every Rhyme proc does an additional 60% damage. You have tons of Rhyme procs, so now you can do Killing Machine, even off go. So this is kind of like an off pillar kind of thing. Big Killing Machine, big Frost Strike, big Killing Machine. Now this one generates a Rhyme proc, so now you have a big Rhyme proc, big Frost Strike. Maybe you generate another Killing Machine during those other globals and you press it for another big hit, right? So these chunky hits that you have during every pillar leak out into off pillar because now your Rhyme procs hit hard, your Killing Machine obliterates will always hit hard, and your Frost Strikes will still hit hard, and they'll always hit the same hard. I've looked at meters post-game, and Howling Blast, Obliterate, and Frost Strike all hit very similarly. Big numbers. And you can see it on the screen. When you hit somebody, it's like, whoa, that took a chunk out of their health bar. And that's what makes this so sustain heavy. But the lack of Shattering Blade, and now here's the cusp of this, right? I have a Razor Ice generator from Glacial Advance coming off of every Killing Machine Obliterate, which you have tons of. And then I have another Razor Ice generator from Avalanche. So I'm generating Razor Ice on anything I touch, and it's staying because I don't expend it with Shattering Blade, which allows me to run a second buff to strength Runeforge. Rune of the Stone Skin Gargoyle, now recently allowed to be put on one-handers, Falling Crusader, and Razor Ice from Glacial Advance and from Avalanche, all three of them buffed by 20%. So if you were confused how this generates pressure, and then you started to get on board with the Enduring Strength and the Rhyme procs doing more damage and the fast autos for more Killing Machines and the really fast auto attack damage, it all comes together with triple Runeforge on Holy Bond. That is 18% Fallen Crusader strength, 7% perma strength from Stone Skin Gargoyle, and 18% frost damage from permanently active super buffed Razor Ice. You have all three of these effects all the time. Fallen Crusader is very high uptime, Stone Skin Gargoyle is passive, and your Razor Ice will be permanently on the guy. Because of all your applicators, it's going to refresh the duration. And you can't spend it because you don't have Shattering Blade. So now you're always doing damage, and you add Remorseless Winter every go, big Remorseless Winter every go, and Power Rune Weapon for the huge go that gets a lot of their cooldowns, and then Icebreaker for every Rhyme proc to do damage inside and outside of pillar. This build, and I've streamed a little bit of it, but I'm going to continue doing that all pre-patch. This build never runs out of damage, ever. It just never does. I'm always like, oh my god, he could die, he could die, he could die. Oh, you could die, actually, he could die here. Oh, I have Pillar now back up, he could die. Okay, Pillar's gone, but I have a few procs, he could die, he could die, blah, blah, blah. That's just all it is the entire time. So if you want Legion Frost. If you want to build where it's like no setup, no Frostworm's Fury, no, not even D&D Cleave. No need for a Chill Streak, go, because you're sick of Chill Streak. I've heard so many people say they're sick of Chill Streak. Don't need them to stay together for Chill Streak. Don't need them to stay in the D&D. You can just always do damage. Legion Frost. This build is for you. So there's some important things that we have to see in the DK talent tree. So I am going to talk about that next and then go on to the next Frost build, because there is another one, I promise. But we have some tools now. We have Runic Protection. This is a rework-esque thing. Just gives you a little bit more survivability. We have AMS survivability right here, because now we have short cooldown AMS that's really huge, and we have AMS increasing your healing received. So even against physical DPS, I talked about this in my excitement for War Within video, but if you didn't watch that one, against physical damage, AMS is still a cooldown. Because if they can't break the AMS, you just get 15% mere healing the whole time. And if they can break the AMS, because they have a lot of magical damage, that means you got the value out of AMS, because it absorbed the damage. So AMS is now both a physical and a magical cooldown, which is more survivability when you pair that with this. And you have Lichborn Wall for 15% and it's longer duration. And then you have Blood Draw, which gives you another 10% wall during the Will of the Forsaken range, which also allows you to Death Strike more often, which can make you rebound easier, and you get a tiny amount of healing from Blood Draw itself, but it's only one talent this time. You have AoE AMS, which can help get your teammates out of CC or just keep them topped. You have Death Grip, 6% damage reduction, which is just another compounding damage reduction. You have magic damage taken reduced by 10% all the time, and even harmful magic effects. So this is just dots, Shadow Priest, Aflock, even Ellie's Shaman. And then the Permafrost, I was talking about this with Icy Talons and Smothering Offense. And then you have Gloom Ward for bigger shields, which increases Permafrost and AMS and Zone. And then you have Zone, and then you have Big Stam, which is only 1 out of 1 instead of 2 out of 2. Are you seeing what I'm getting at here? DK is tankier. And that's all before Deathbringer even comes out, right? Deathbringer is a Frost Blood Hero Talent hybrid, which allows you to be even more tanky. So this build stays in and always does damage. If that sounds like heaven to you, try this build. The reason I don't run things like Raised Dead or Cleaving Strikes is because you're not focused on Grip Blind AoE, so you don't even have Frostborn's Fury. You're not focused on Grip Blind, AoE Stun, D&D, Chill Streak. You are focused on Legion Frost. And if you played it, you can do Grip Stun Goes, because you grip and your partner stuns, or you grip and your Remorseless Winter Stun, and you have a double chains on them, right? Double chains, 70% slow. Then you Remorseless Winter Stun one guy, then swap to the other guy, and the Remorseless is still building because you have Gathering Storm that makes it last longer. And then you stun the other guy. You're always doing damage. You do not need to set up on a spot on the ground, because you can kill them outside of that. If that sounds like something you've wanted to try since it existed 7 years ago, feel free to try this build. But that's not to say, and I'll show you right now, this talent is bad, or this talent is bad, or this in here. Let me prove it. See, this is just the Endless Winter build is just, well, it's amazing. I played it in solo shuffle, and I was just constantly killing people, but I don't want to go too much into that because, it's pre-patch. Pre-patch is pre-patch, right? I just wanted to talk about the synergies and show you how electrifying it would be to play. So when the expansion comes out, we can only build on it with the hero talents and make that Endless Winter build feel even more oppressive all the time. But we have a more traditional setup build. And I dropped Absolute Zero because I believe the stacking yourself with 2 AoE stuns in a solo shuffle environment pigeonholes you. Is that the term I want to use? It forces you into a type of playstyle that sometimes doesn't work super well. Why was Frost so agonizing to play in solo shuffle last season? You know it was, right? If you played Frost, you were like, "Chase, this is not that fun." It's because you played solitaire. You played by yourself. Your go was insane, but everything else you could do didn't synergize with them, and they didn't synergize with you. You just played by yourself. But if you play to focus on doing as much as you can outside of just that go, you can make that go really strong, but then prioritize doing things outside of that go. you can better play with your teammates. If they have AoE stuns, if they have stun DR, if they have other disruption tools in an AoE setting, you don't need to provide everything. You can provide good complementary tools to a solo shuffle environment, and that is what this version of the AoE cleave build does. Because you still have things like Shattering Blade. But instead of going all the way down into hyperpyrexia, rather, that's what I was pronounced, right? Hyperpyrexia, yeah. I did grab the chill streak for the 70% slow, and I wanted to buff the chill streak because it's really difficult. If you've tried the chill streak bounce range without this talent, it's very limited. But with this talent and the extra bounces, it can actually be a part of your big D&D cleave build, which which you do have here. So I grabbed that instead of this setup, and I still have the Empower Rune Weapon, Gathering Storm. So you still have all of these Remorseless Winter. So you have the big Remorseless Winter, long duration, big damage, stuns them, right? So you have that stun with the Grip Line, Remorseless Winter, D&D, Chill Streak, and then you have the stun lock in, and then Chill Streak starts bouncing between them, and then you have the huge Shattering Blade. But you still have the core focus of just 45-second go, always doing damage. But then that one time you do the super damage, it's insanely difficult to heal through because not only are they already out of cooldowns, you're also hitting both of them. So just like before, it's like, how can you heal everybody for 100% of their health? Well, it's really difficult. Well, it's even more difficult when you don't have any cooldowns to trade because the go is going up too fast. So instead of relying on a 1.5 minute cooldown for the 3-second AoE stun, I just grip line D&D Chill Streak, Remorseless Winter. Well, in the different order: Grip Blind, Remorseless Winter, D&D Chill Streak, and then the Remorseless Winter stun goes off on both of them, and then you lock them in that. You don't have the restun or the first stun, you just have the Dead of Winter stun. But as a result, you're able to get some of these high power. Look at that. How long is that cooldown? 45 second, right? You just have these goes that will better synergize with your teammate being able to participate. You're not playing solitaire as Frosty K anymore. And the reason I'm so confident that this is a good idea, not that the Absolute Zero is bad, but that this is worth experimenting with, is because no matter who I talk to, last expansion, especially at the end of the expansion, Frosty K was unfun for them in solo shuffle. Now, I'm sure there's somebody who liked it, but the grand majority is people who are not having fun. So what I'm doing is I'm straying away from what I know made that the case. I'm straying away from solitaire and adding cohesion with your teammates. This build and the one before it are always going to provide impact for your teammates' goes and for your own goes. So try them. If I play around and I don't have as much success as I've been having in pre-patch. In pre-patch, I've been having success, but pre-patch is pre-patch. Then I will add a new build, and I will add Frostworm's Fury, and I will give it some fantasy name accordingly and the hero talents that go with it. But right now, I think I can finally play a version of Frost that plays well with others and doesn't rely on one go. And again, I know for a fact the combination of things that give you the Absolute Zero has merit, but you've already seen them, and if you like them and you don't like these versions, stay with them. Okay. But just to make that clear, you just do this. You can just do that. If you really want Absolute Zero, you could just do that. See, I showed you. Okay. So obviously the only real changes for this are we drop some talents down below, like the Leech talent, to make sure that we get the D&D cleave, because if you're focused around doing a Chill Streak or Absolute Zero go, you want to D&D cleave, because then your Obliterate hits both of them. Duh. Okay. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Frost, the new talent trees. Of course, the PvP talents are kind of locked in for me anyway. You have Dead of Winter, which I've said so many times, it would be insane if I didn't say it was a mandatory talent, because it's a part of every go that I have. It's a 4-second AoE stun. That's huge. Then you have Straying, which I talked about a lot. It is a 45-second go enabler. It adds 5 seconds of off DRCC to the healer. Wow. And then your third talent is variable. So Spell Warden is an amazing option because you can put it on a teammate to give them the big shield, and then anybody around them. You can put it on your teammate to immune CC, or you can just put it on yourself but have it a shorter cooldown because it reduces the cooldown of AMS by 10 seconds. Necrotic War is actually pretty interesting because you have so much output that 4% more than so much output is so much more output. But Bitter Chill, as you saw, I was running at the beginning of the expansion. I actually finally think we'll be trying this out because your secondary stats will be much lower. So 8% haste may be all the haste that they have from their gear. And if it is, then that was what they were relying on to smooth out the rotation. And now they don't have it anymore. So they just lose it. That's kind of impactful. Delirium is a really good answer for mages and Mistweavers, as it always has been. Death Chill, I think, should be taken out of the game. Don't you already have a way of rooting them? Yeah, so now you have 2 worthless Chains of Ice roots that you will never take. So maybe they'll change that. And Rotten Wither does not exist. It's a facade. It's a mirage. You're not actually seeing it on the bar. Now that our tankiness and sustain is so good, Bloodforged against double physical melee, Windwalkers, Warriors, yeah, try this out. Try this out because our sustain is good now. And we really can stay in and get to our next pillar with them on the back foot instead of us. Try this against double physical. Try this against arms Windwalker. If you see those things in War with them, try it. Okay, so there are your PvP talents. A nice rule of thumb would be maybe Spell Warden, especially with the short cooldown osmosis value. Bitter Chill at the beginning of the expansion. If you want to just try something that always makes you do more damage, you could just lock in this loadout. Now you have the most output-friendly loadout you could get. That's Frost. So, gear, I promised I would talk about it a little bit. In the pre-patch, I run dual wield, as you showed. Oh, a very, very important gearing thing. I should put a timestamp note in this because I'm sure people are going to be asking about it. One thing you are definitely asking about is with the strikestorm build that prioritizes big frost strikes and big 45-second goes with chill streak. Do you still use stone skin gargoyle? No. You got to use razor ice. Because now the 3 types of razor ice generators that you have, your weapon, avalanche, and glacial advance, all make it so you can shattering blade as much as humanly possible. So if you're going to go for shattering blade, you might as well go all in and make this a huge core factor of how you are outputting the biggest frost strikes of all time, right? So you have to unfortunately give up some stamina. That's another thing, by the way, that Stone Skin Gargoyle gives. So in this build, you need the razor ice for shattering blade, non-negotiable. But if you want to try the other build, that's another thing this gives, by the way. Stone Skin Gargoyle gives you that perma strength, but also perma stam and perma armor. And it felt meaningless back in Dragonflight Frost. But now, Frost can live. It can stay in. I've shown all the talents and all the changes that make that true. So if you add even more, look at my health pool, by the way. 2.2 million, no stam buff. You could be like a 2.4 million gamer. Yeah, you could be a 2.4 million health gamer, and it gives you armor. So 63% damage reduct. And then you could take another 20% off that. It wouldn't be 83%. That's not how it works mathematically. It would be 20% of the remaining 37%. But you could take even more damage off with Bloodforged armor. I think in maybe an arena setting, the armor goes down. But you'd have to take a look at that. Regardless, you have more armor with Stone Skin Gargoyle than you would have because that is what it does. So you are really looking pretty tanky with this setup. But if you want to play the Strikestorm build for the biggest frost strikes of all time, you need to run Rune of Razor Ice. I made that very clear. I'll put a timestamp here. If you still have the question, I'll answer it for you. But there it is. It's on the screen right now. Okay, so here's some other things. Obviously, you get all the verse you need from PvP gear still. Verse. I'm not going to talk about crafted pieces because we're moving on from that, and War Within is totally different, but I will talk about stats. You can see you still get all the verse you need from PvP gear, and that will probably still be the same. In War Within, the gearing method changes, but you really do want to hit like 30% verse now, and then in the new expansion, we'll see what the nice float around number is. But you can see something that's different. I needed to get to this much crit chance, or I was not reliably getting the auto attack extender on the long winter, and that is a core feature of how I play this class and how I built this build. So I never do this, but now I'm finally going to do this for you. I'm going to give you a number you should shoot for. It's not a cap, it's not a hard cap, it's not a soft cap, it's not a exact science because those don't exist. You cannot sim PvP. That is insane. That's literally insane to think you could sim PvP. But there is a number 12 to 15% I think with the current haste is enough to shoot for to reliably get long winter value. Now your haste is going to go way down in the new expansion, so I'll have to update that crit chance, and I don't think we'll be able to reach it, which is going to change some things. That's why I have to update my videos. But right now, if you're trying to get a feel for what Frost will look like, especially late War Within, what the maximum sustain output of Frost will be, so you can get excited about this is what the new Frost can look like, try for this in the pre-patch. Grab yourself 12 to 15% crit, and the rest go into the other stats. Now, again, in the new expansion, what that might mean is that our mastery is going to be much lower, and we're going to be kind of haste crit focused to make sure we get up to there for long winter. I'm not entirely sure, but it kind of feels like we have to do that, because if you don't have long winter, you don't have this version of Frost. You have a different one. But there you go. How did I do that? I bought the crit boots, and I put in crit gems and a crit enchant. That's literally it. Before this stuff, I was at 6%, and with this stuff, I was at 12. Crit gem, crit enchant, crit gem, crit enchant, crit boots, crit gem, crit gem, and then you have crit on your helm from the tier set. I didn't change anything else. I didn't recraft anything. I didn't buy insignia because badge, because badge is dumb now. You don't have a 1 minute go anymore. You have a 45-second go, so of course you want insignia. This is the most you've ever wanted insignia as Frost. Generally, you didn't want that, but now you do. So you don't get it from badge. I just got it from those other things. Okay, that's gearing. That's talents. Here's some playstyle changes. I'm going to start actually with this really cool opener that I've got for the, this is really cool. For the Shattering Blade, so you can see I'm a strikestorm build, which has Shattering Blade, and it has Razor Ice. You want to get your chill streak out before pillar, so every single pillar global can be generating an obliterate and spending that obliterate proc. So what I do is I run in there, I would demount chains, so they're slow. And then for the go, you would do grip, blind. Well, let's just show this. Grip, blind, D&D, remorse, chill streak, pillar, and then start the go. But let me just show you the single target pressure this thing has. So you can demount chains, run up to the dummy. As you're running in, press remorseless, and then throw chill streak when you get in range, and then pillar and power, and then start doing the alternate. Frost strike, obliterate, frost strike, obliterate, frost strike, obliterate. So it looks like running up, remorse, in range, chill streak, pillar and power, and then obliterate, frost strike, obliterate, frost strike, obliterate, frost strike, obliterate, frost strike, obliterate, obliterate again, frost strike, another generated obliterate, frost strike, another generated. Look at that 18-second pillar. So I'm doing 350k DPS the entire time. Yes, I've done this in PvP. Yes, it's nearly unhealable. I'll show you on stream tonight if you come. But that is the single target pressure that you can provide during a go. Again, you already know, I think, if you're brand new to this pre-patch, then it's grip, blind, remorseless, D&D down, chill streak, and then do your go, because this allows you to AoE cleave with your go during the AoE stun from Moros's Winter while the chill streak is bouncing back and forth. Whee, there it goes. But I just wanted to show you, that's what Frost does single target now. 18 seconds of the alternating frost strike obliterate. Look at this, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3. 18 seconds of that, which generates an enormous enduring strength, which gets you right back to your next pillar. It's insane. So that's a little bit how that go looks like. Again, I walk in, I demount chains, I remorse as I'm running over to them, I throw the chill streak, and then I pillar and I start setting up the combo. So that's what it looks like. And yeah, I mean, and I had a couple games in PvP where I ended at when they died in the opener because they could not heal through it because it's pre-patch and people are still just testing things. That's not bragging. That's just how it goes. But yes, I ended at 340k single target DPS in PvP. Well, I wasn't fully single target. People were getting cleaved, but the guy in front of me was taking all the damage and he died. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Frost is really good right now. That's it. Sorry I talked so much. I hope that helped. If you want to go back through the timestamps, you can. If you want to ask me any questions to comments, I will answer them immediately. I will not make you feel dumb. I will answer it thoroughly. And I will thank you for commenting on the video because that honestly just helps me. And if you want to ask me more questions on my stream, I will be live as much as humanly possible over the next 2 years. So thanks for being here. Peace.